are talking Shady Grove, or should that be Shitty Grove? I joke, the movie's not that bad. Or is it? We'll discuss. So this one is directed by Dale Reskigeni, and I've probably mispronounced that one, and it's essentially a folk horror come home invasion movie. What's the story? Okay, so it focuses on three friends. Two of the three friends are actually a couple, and they decide they're going to go to this kind of out-of-the-way cabin in the woods for a kind of rest and relaxation, you know, weekend away and what have you, in Shady Grove. So they go there and it seems idyllic, first of all. You know, beautiful scenery, friendly neighbours. The one single guy there is noticing lots of kind of pretty girls in the area, things like that. So he's kind of like, he thinks his weekend is set. However, there is a dark underbelly to Shady Grove, and there seems to be some type of cultish behaviour going on there. What'll happen? Well, you'll have to watch the movie and find out. So let's discuss what I think works with Shady Grove. Okay, the biggest asset to this movie, I think, is our three leads, both in their characters and their acting. I actually have to say I was quite invested in all three characters, even the guy who is the kind of the comedy relief and somewhat clearly the red shirt. I kind of like his character. He kind of reminded me a little bit of Chris Tucker. He was kind of channeling Chris Tucker. But I gotta say, I found him kind of quite amusing. He was very charismatic. I enjoyed his character and his performance. But even our other couple, our other two, who are the couple, I gotta say, I think they had somewhat kind of fleshed out kind of characters, and the performances were pretty good. Now there is a little bit of ADR here at times, which I think kind of does make the performances a little flat at times, but I don't blame the actors for that. It's kind of just a case of some ADR making the kind of the dialogue seem a little bit kind of stilted at times. But for the most part, I thought the actual acting was all good, believable characters, likeable. You can kind of get behind them and root behind them. They seem somewhat kind of flawed, but you know, you still kind of like them. That was the kind of the biggest aspect of this movie that I quite enjoyed. I mean, there is an interesting element involved in the kind of these cultists. Their kind of MO, when it's kind of revealed at the end of the kind of the movie, I think is somewhat kind of interesting, although it's not, you know, it treats it like a twist, but I think it's reasonably kind of like signposted through the kind of the movie. And you know, I think cultist kind of movies can be quite kind of creepy at times, and there's a couple of shots here that I think do kind of evoke a little bit of fear and stuff like that. You know, but there are some kind of downsides with the kind of these cult types, as I'll kind of talk about in just a little bit. But yeah, I mean, it's an interesting kind of idea. I think maybe not kind of filled out to its full potential, but you know, an interesting kind of idea, and it's executed into an okay kind of fashion. In a technical level, I've got to say this movie, outside of some kind of audio issues, like I've said, some obvious kind of ADR, it's certainly kind of shot quite well. I thought there was no problems in regards to kind of the editing and the kind of the camera work, cinematography, things like that. So you know, it's all sort of like okay-ish, to be honest. You know, there's nothing really terrible with this movie. I know that sounds like a real backhanded compliment, but you know, there we are. What doesn't work with this movie, it's a little bit too slow for its own good, considering the plot here is reasonably slight, and what we do have is very reminiscent of lots of other films. I think it needed to have a little bit more kind of going on. I think maybe they could have done with maybe some more characters, maybe 5 people going to this this kind of cabin in the woods to kind of give you a little bit more going on, a little bit more character dynamics, certainly a bit more confrontation with the kind of the cultists. With 3 of them, there's not many of them, so we kind of feel like there's a lot of time spent in really until we get to anything kind of resembling a kind of a real horror movie. I mean, I like the fact that we have some good characterization in this movie, but there just simply wasn't enough going on to really make it a kind of a riveting watch, and it's not exactly kind of like a particularly kind of complex plot or with many kind of layers in regards to the narrative to kind of give you that kind of like that meat on the bones otherwise. So to me, there was just not enough kind of going on. I think it could have had either more characters that would involve kind of a little bit more interaction with different aspects and things like that, or have just a little bit more kind of going on, because as it stands at the moment, it's a little bit sparse in regards to kind of actual kind of content. I've already mentioned there's some kind of like some ADR issues. For example, there's a scene where our couple are actually having a shower. Now, if you've ever kind of been on the phone in the bathroom or whatever, you'll know it kind of sounds echoey and stuff like this. But obviously, the clear kind of like ADR feels like it's just kind of layered on top, which of course it is, to make obviously the speech more legible, but it seems really fake at the same time. Don't have a scene in the shower. It would be my sort of advice here if it kind of doesn't work out like that. Just write around it, do something else. Have the conversation after the shower, whatever. It just, you know, there's a couple of instances like that where you can kind of see some of the the holes really in some of the kind of the technical aspects, which for the most part are good, but there's a few, certainly with the audio, for me, that I kind of like noticed. The cultists themselves, it kind of treats it like it's this big reveal, but I think it's quite easy to kind of work out what's kind of going on. And although I gotta say, I kind of always find the idea of these kind of weird kind of backward cults quite interesting, I don't know if these lot seem particularly kind of threatening, if we're being honest. I have to say as well, I don't really know why they were doing certain things. Now, I don't want to spoil anything for you, but the fate of one of the characters ends up being probably the most graphic scene in the movie, but I don't really know why they were doing it. I mean, and also why are they wearing kind of like animal heads and things like this. It doesn't really go into any detail in regards to when we find out what they're actually up to. You know, I guess it wants to kind of have this surprise about what's kind of going on, but to me, I felt the whole cultist angle was a little bit kind of underdeveloped. And when you understand what's kind of going on, I think you look at the characters that you've seen up to this point, you're thinking, these look a bit, you know, the people who were revealed to be in this cult, I think they should have made them a little bit more countrified, is the best way I would describe it, because they kind of just seem like regular kind of like folk who you see every day on the street. I don't know really why you would think that they've kind of gone down this road. Again, I'm trying to avoid spoilers here. So, you know, there's that. Kill-wise, kind of horror-wise, it's pretty light. There's because we have not a huge group of protagonists, the kills are relatively kind of like sparse. What we do see is either very quick or off screen. There's also some other kind of little elements here that I didn't really understand. There's a scene, for example, where we have this like teenage boy snogging a girl, and then who he is, why he's there, what happens to him, I didn't really understand the context of it. I mean, he's just in there to have a kill. But when you watch the movie as a whole, you look and think, okay, well, who was that? What was he doing there? You know, why? It doesn't really make sense. So I think some of these things, some of these kind of like elements of this movie have been added without much kind of thought to it. So to me, I think part of the problem, generally speaking, was starting from the script here. Because I just think it needed to have a little bit more work on the script, a little bit more story elements added, to make this movie a little bit more interesting, and the things that it does introduce, I feel, are underdeveloped, which is a shame, because this movie certainly had the time to kind of go into this, because as I say, the movie is relatively sparse in regards to actual kind of plot points, and it could have expanded upon some of these kind of other elements to kind of make them a little bit more interesting, or a little bit more fleshed out at the very least. As it stands, it seems like a somewhat underdeveloped movie, but it's still not a bad watch. Like I said, I think, for me at least, the fact that this movie at least got kind of some good characters in it and good performances, you know, made this not a bad film. It was a watchable movie, and the concept is interesting. It's just underdeveloped. So I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.